Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into Live from Cleveland at Home. Today we're joined by two local musicians, and we'll see if a third joins us in a little while. But I am joined today by two different Cleveland musicians who have had very different experiences with coronavirus, as well as playing shows right now due to the pandemic. It's been a wild ride, and as venues are starting to reopen, people have had to kind of adapt to their own personal plans as far as what their boundaries are with coronavirus, and if they feel comfortable playing live sets indoors or outdoors right now. So to start today's show off, we are going to have these guys introduce themselves to you and let you know a little bit more about their music. So Sean, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Sean Hølt. I'm a dark ambient artist, I guess, is what I would call it. Born and raised here in Cleveland, spent a large part of my life in the Pacific Northwest, but calling Cleveland home again. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Well, I'm Mikey Silas. I play with Apostle Jones, and like to spend a little bit of time away from Cleveland, but moved back a few years ago and call this home now. But we've been actually out playing shows and are trying to get back to it a little bit. So I think it's an important conversation to have. So thank you so much for asking us to be here today.
And Mikey, you're just playing right now with Apostle Jones, or are there any other bands that you're also in at the moment?
Well, so I have a side project called Holodeck, but the other guy is also an Apostle Jones. But I did just play a wedding the other day with the guitar player on more of a solo. It's more of a solo expression. So so music has always been a lot of different avenues for me. So.
Sure. Awesome. Thinking about kind of these new guidelines, especially as things start to reopen, I just wanted to kind of get a full idea of what decision making you're making for like either yourself or these other groups that you're in. So I guess my next question for both of you is if this had been a normal summer and this coronavirus had not been happening, how many shows would you have been expecting to play during the course of this summer? And what kind of like venues would those have been at? Are we talking like DIY house shows? Are we talking, a club with a capacity of 300 people? Just trying to get a good idea of like how this has really been affecting your gigging as a musician. And we can start with Sean and then go to Mikey.
Well, I tend to play smaller venues. I don't have a huge following, but I've discovered that the followings I do have tend to be in small, weird pockets. So I tend to go down to Asheville, North Carolina, and play quite a bit. Johnson City, Bristol, Tennessee. Somehow I've managed to find this weird cult following in Appalachia, which is really cool. I actually got sick earlier this year, and the first weekend I spent in the hospital, I was actually supposed to be in New York City playing a show in Brooklyn, New York for the New York City Modular Society. And I was also supposed to play the Northeast Electroacoustical Experimental Music Festival. I played it last year. It was in New Jersey last year. It was a lot of fun. And I was supposed to play a couple random sort of festival type things up in Canada this summer. Normally I go out and I do like play small venues. I bring about 15 to 30 people in per show and set like DIY venues Pittsburgh or Columbus or places I mentioned earlier. It's usually set up where I can make the shows kind of pay for themselves and I get just to go travel regionally for free basically. Unfortunately, this summer hasn't been the case, and I decided to just be safe even before like a lot of the lockdown or whatever happened, and cancel all my gigs, which was inevitably going to happen anyways, because of my own health. I don't know how many people watching this or listening to this know this, but I had COVID-19 and it turned into bacterial pneumonia, which turned into an infection in my lung wall, and I'd have emergency surgery, and I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. But I've been kind of taking advantage of the time off, I guess you could say, because I finished an album, and now that I don't have to go out and like kind of promote it at all, because I don't really sell that well online. Usually when I play shows, usually when I sell downloads with t-shirts and stuff like that. So I feel like I can kind of take my time, go back and maybe add some extra tracks and make the production a little deeper on it. And plus, I've had a lot more free time to go do things like mountain biking and hiking, which are things that keep me sane, really. But I really miss playing out. I miss gigging. I miss traveling to other cities to see my friends. And I was even at the point where I was going to set up some shows back in my former hometown of Portland, Oregon. But that's all kind of been put on hold now for me. I suppose if it was done right, I would play a gig. If it was outdoors and there was lots of room and space. I don't really worry about myself getting sick again, because as I understand viruses, I can't get sick again. But that one chance that I could, or that I could carry it and bring it home to my partner who is immune compromised, scares the hell out of me. So I'm not 100% against that. I got to be careful, because I don't want to get anybody else sick.
And we'll definitely explore kind of the guidelines that you've set for yourself, as well as how your own personal experience with COVID has really colored, how you've been doing this decision making. But Mikey, what kind of shows would you have been playing this summer if this hadn't occurred?
Man, so I keep this voice memo in my phone, or a note memo, and all the shows are in there. And it used to be right at the top, so you're updating it all the time. But if I was trying to look for it earlier, and it's all the way down 10 memos, and I'm like, oh man, we're not touching shows at all. We haven't been. But we were going to be playing. We were scheduled to do Waterloo, Porch Fest, so a lot of the summer festivals. Right before quarantine was laid in, we were supposed to play at the Beachland. It was going to be a ballroom debut show for us. So we were really excited for this summer. Other places like outdoor festivals. So we were excited about we're still relatively a new band. And I just want to say real fast, Sean, I'm glad you healed well and that you're here today. So just good job getting better, man. Sorry.
Thank you.
But we were looking forward to being out and about a lot. Kind of the playing gigs and running around the city, east side, west side, garage shop mahalls. That was kind of a way of life for us. So just a lot of things kind of hit the brakes really hard. But we probably lost up to about 20 to 25 shows off of our calendar in the snap of a finger. But we're looking to get back out into playing, operating within those guidelines. I'm sure we'll get into that more a little bit later. But we felt like we had a little good momentum going. So when quarantine first hit in, it was kind of like, oh man, what do we got to do? We got to keep this going. We need to come up with content somehow. And then slowly it became, all right, this is kind of a futile effort. So we have to kind of look inside and figure out how do we connect with the music again, and how do we mentally stay sharp and fit during all this. Just a little side story. Actually, right before quarantine, I was in live from there, and we got to play that show for my dad, who just was admitted to the hospital. Not COVID related, but 3 months later, still in the ICU after a surgery, he ended up dying. So this quarantine has been stressful on a lot of different levels. But so to me, getting out there and playing music again is, music's always been there at times when things didn't seem like they were going right, or I wasn't really doing my part to keep myself in line. So music has been there to catch me a lot of times. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunities ahead to play shows and just connect and feed my soul a little bit, and hopefully help other people feed theirs as well.
And I'm really happy that you guys did get to be on live from Cleveland right before quarantine started. I think you were one of the last bands we were able to have perform in the studio, so that was great. And thanks for doing that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you. It was a gift. It was a gift I could give my dad. That was
really wonderful. I can't believe
so special.
How that all worked out. My condolences also to your family.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
But obviously, I mean, with all of the stress of both of these situations during a time when a lot is uncertain, especially like medically, you know, how safe is it being even in a hospital, whether you have COVID or you don't, you know? Sean, how has having COVID and then that developing into pneumonia really affected your decision making going forth? I mean, I think it's a lot different knowing what it was like and having had it, and then thinking about how now you're going to be conducting yourself and your business as a musician, versus like not really knowing.
Well, having gone through it, you know, I hear people say, well, it's just a cold, it's just a flu. To a certain degree, that kind of sort of is true, but it was literally like going through hell. I mean, I didn't see anybody I knew or loved for 6 weeks. I was kept in quarantine for the first 2 weeks at the hospital before I could even leave my room, although I couldn't because at one point I was hooked up to some tubes hanging out of my side. I was kept in a coma after surgery for 3 days. And then when I got transferred to a nursing facility for 2.5 weeks, for the first 2 weeks I was there again, I was kept in isolation, and I didn't see another human being unless it was mealtime or time to get my medication infusion. That was probably the hardest part, was dealing with the isolation and not knowing whether or not I was going to walk out of the hospital or not, because I was in really bad shape. What was supposed to be a simple procedure turned into like a 10-hour operation, because I thought they were just going to put tubes in my lung, and they ended up cutting me basically from here to the back of my spine. And you know, it was one part. If COVID-19 had been going on in the quarantine and whatnot, I probably would have canceled a lot of my gigs anyways. I canceled over 30 gigs this year, just because I thought, I didn't know how quick I was going to heal. And, you know, I thought, well, the doctors are telling me it could take 6 to 8 months for me to heal. Thankfully, it's been actually a lot quicker than that. I was out of the nursing home for 2 weeks, and I went to a 20-mile bike ride, and I was really happy to be able to do that. But with the quarantine, you know, it's weird, because in a weird way I was fortunate enough to be not home, but be in the hospital for almost the first 2 months of it. So it didn't seem that surreal. It didn't seem that, it just felt like I was in the hospital and I came home, and then I haven't seen anybody I've known since, except for my immediate family, like my partner and my mother live with us. And and like maybe 2 of my friends here and there, and then if I go mountain biking, I'll see some friends out on the mountain bike trails. But the real social connection's not there. And I'm kind of going off. I'm sorry. What was the question?
Oh, it's okay.
Decision making.
You know, how has having had COVID like affected, you know, what I don't know, like how you've been informing yourself about, you know, if you're comfortable playing shows, or even like you're talking about now, going out and like doing some of those activities.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about. I'm not really concerned about myself getting sick again, because, like I said, I don't think that I can. As far as I know, the COVID virus, once you have it, you have antibodies, and I think you want to be able to get it. I mean, that's nobody. I really can't.
I don't think they've confirmed anything yet, which is
exactly
the other scary part. Yeah.
I know what I went through, and I would never want anybody else to have to go through that. So I just try being extra careful. I mean, if someone feels comfortable going out to the grocery store, wear a mask. I know that's a big hot button topic right now, but it's just, you know, if you want to help stop this so we can get back to normal, that's what I would say. I've been seeing like some people been doing shows outdoors. I guess if it's done correctly, that's fine. But for me personally, I'm too worried right now. The shit I've been, excuse me, I can't say that on radio. The stuff I've been through, I wouldn't want anybody to me. I know a lot of young people who are in their early 20s, to late 20s, 30s. When you're that age, you're indestructible. I should know. I used to be indestructible, but now I'm old, and I apparently get pneumonia like old people get when I get sick. Which, so for me, I hope other people understand what can happen to them if they're not too careful.
I guess I'd also ask you then, so as far as if somebody were to ask you, Sean, to play a show, in a month, and to plan a show in a month, would you do it? Would there be guidelines that you would want to abide by? And then Mikey, I'll ask you that same question.
I think it's a possibility. If it was outdoors, and with a limited capacity of people, I think I could probably do it. If it was at a little club like the Coda, for example, no. That place is just, there's no airflow. It's small, but it's I wouldn't feel comfortable in that aspect. But if it was outdoors, like a modular on the spot sort of type deal, I might consider it in a month, sure. But I would also have to conclude, let's see how things go, play it by ear sort of type thing. Because honestly, from one day to the next, the narrative of this whole thing kind of changes, and it's a really uncertain time we're living in. That's for sure.
True. Mikey,
I don't have a definite answer.
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. Mikey, I know that Apostle Jones has played a show out. So what were some of the things that you took into consideration with that show? And also for people who don't know about it or when it was, kind of give them a little bit of background into what that show was that you guys had already played.
For sure. So we played probably a venue that's similar to a Coda, like a subterranean venue. We played at B-Side on Coventry. Their B-Side is reopening. It's the bar below Grog Shop if no one's been down there. And when I was talking with Wallace there about, he's like, hey, we're getting ready to go. Are you ready to go? First answer was, oh, yeah. Been waiting. Good, let's do it. And then it sort of started to sink in a little bit, wait a minute, so there was a little bit of reality there. So the band and I, we got together and we talked about, just really wanting to set a good example, and really trying to use this event to start to build accountability into the events for not only for the venue, but also for the people attending it and for the musicians performing at it. So we wanted to step ahead of that and really try to make sure that we knew that that the venue was abiding by crowd or implementing crowd control measures, whether it's size or distancing. Because we found out the show, which normally would be on the back patio, was actually moved inside to accommodate people in a larger area. And Kat, who's over at Grog Shop, she was down there measuring people out with her hands and 10 feet apart. The singer has to be as far away. So we felt really safe. And to me, that's the type of environment that if the venues are taking measures like that to be proactive and to show leadership in a time like this, that's definitely a venue that we feel comfortable with. And I really feel like they did a fabulous job, and everyone who came down there was wearing masks and keeping distance. If you wanted to be alone, don't come near me, you could totally do that. Have a more casual conversation with somebody, there was also that option to do that as well. So we are, the event went well. Cool.
There we go. There you're back now.
All right, cool. It's a little matrix glitch there. It's okay.
Yeah.
Universe.
Yeah. I think we lost Sean's video too. It's all right. But well, I'm happy that was your experience with B-Side, and that everything went according to plan for that show. Obviously, it's really difficult to know what other people are going to do. You can control the environment. You might not necessarily be able to control other people.
Exactly.
And I don't think there is, a right or wrong answer right now for whether or not we are, ready or not for shows. Like, I think some people might be and some people might not be. So I think that having you guys be ready for the shows, you're like providing people with a lot of awesome information as well that they might not necessarily get anywhere else. So,
well, before the show as a band, we decided, we're very incestuous, a lot, like we practice together, we hang out together. So our crew has been very like locked in with each other. And also I teach remotely for School of Rock. So I've been staying with my mom to help her during all this time. So some of the stuff that Sean was talking about being mindful about the people you live with, that's the one thing that kind of eats at me a little bit. Like, do I feel like I'm taking risky steps going out and playing shows? Sure, of course. But do I feel like at some point, and this is kind of a belief of the band, at a certain point, you kind of have to learn to live in it a little bit, and I know that could be kind of a hot button for some people, but for us, like, everyone works, so everyone's going out to work, and, we definitely take masks, we have hand sanitizer in the practice space, I mean, we socially distance, so it's an important thing to us, and we really wanted to make sure that first show was what was a good representation of how it could work. And it was a release show for Corey Michaels, and he was fabulous, and it was fun. It was definitely a manageable crowd size, and so we're excited. So we have a show coming. So Dan mentioned Coda specifically. And something they've done is they've moved their venue to an outdoor space into the parking lot right next to Dante's. So they're starting to build that more outdoor element to it, because Coda is definitely one of my favorite venues in the city for sure.
Definitely, and we're actually gonna be talking to them shortly too about kind of some of the things that they have found trying to secure that parking spot.
Right.
As far as permitting goes, because that's also been difficult. So, I guess in that vein as well, I mean, B-side with the new guidelines as far as capacity is probably very, very limited. So I guess another question that I have for both of you would be, at what point are you doing this because the financial pressure is on to kind of like be out and earn money gigging again, or is it more of like an emotional need to kind of be out and be practicing with your band like you would have previously? Because obviously, these shows aren't ones that are going to be, raking in the cash.
Right. Well, I think a lot of the things that we've done in quarantine to support ourselves financially, a lot of us have fallen back on, like what's our other source of income. So a lot of the things we've done have been like a lot of the album sales that we did with the Bandcamp, no artist fees days and whatever. We made sure to use that money to invest back into the community, to other artists who are struggling, or other organizations. There's plenty of movements and organizations that need help during all this too. So we felt comfortable like taking that measure. So in a way, it is a very sort of it's for like emotional gratification, mental health, all those good things, staying busy. Like I've watched my body change over the last like 4 months.
Right.
I'm like, I can't take this anymore. But the idea of practicing and just meeting up, we kind of realized, like I said, the sort of the shift that happened from, all right, quarantine, we don't know how long this is going to be yet, all that other kind of stuff was, how do we stay engaged? How do we keep this coming? We have some plans to record and stuff like that. And a lot of those things have just sort of solved themselves as we've turned to ourselves and have done more work about, what's our connection to music? What's our artistic goal? Have we been so busy gigging that we lost track of like creating and developing sounds? Like something Dan mentioned that I really liked was, he's had a chance to go back to some tracks and maybe rework some of the things that he rushed through before. So there's a lot of like opportunities to find some silver lining in all of this, but we're just trying to keep a good attitude, and we're wearing masks and doing all those things, in order to have those opportunities available to us. So,
Sean, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. It's just just the video went off. For you, if you were able to, if you were asked to perform, in a couple weeks, a month, do you think that the risk would be worth the reward for you personally, or what would that reward have to be in order for you to consider playing a show?
Well, I mean, if it's a local show, I'm fortunate to be involved in a scene that we've been social distancing since the early '80s. I mean, you go to a noise ambient show and nobody's talking to each other. Everyone's either laying on the ground staring at the ceiling or moping in a corner. Like I said, I think maybe I would do it. I mean, because I love playing live. I love recording, but there's only so much that you can do before you start going, why am I doing this? Because it's so much more fun to do live. Because the type of music that I do, I think it translates better live. Because I work with the crowd a lot. I kind of get a feeling of the mood of the room, and I kind of play to that. I mean, everything I do live is improv, and so I miss that aspect horribly of it. But like I said, there's no definite I would or would not do it sort of answer. It all depends on what it is. I know I did that quite and moved their venue outside. That's really cool, actually. And that is one of my favorite places in Cleveland because it's just cool because it's like this little club in a basement, and it's kind of neat like that. Yeah, it's hard to say. I played the Beachland Ballroom when I first moved here about 3 years ago, and I played with Oregon Space Trail Doom and Arms and Armor. And I would do that show again because honestly, at that point, that room was empty.
But, I know. Now it's kind of like this weird psychological reversal of like we're all worried too many people are gonna come out
right
before you get it's so hard to get out.
I can't see anybody, and nobody's coming to see me around here anyhow. So maybe I would play any show, I guess.
Yeah.
But the last show I played at the Winchester. I opened up for some friends of mine, Tomorrow's Ghost, and they asked me to come out and open up for them. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And it was a packed house, and it was probably one of the bigger crowds I played in Cleveland ever. And I actually, that was the day I started getting sick. I remember during sound check, I just started feeling a little tired and kind of gross. And within a month, I was in the hospital. But I remember at that point, I had played like 4 straight months, every single weekend in a row, and I was just exhausted. I thought, oh my God, I have no gigs for a month. What am I going to do? And well, I figured out what I was doing when I ended up in the hospital for the next 2 months.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Part of me wants to say no, I wouldn't. Just been the safe side. Part of me, also the logical side, says there's probably no risk to it because, just the nature of our scene that I'm involved with, that it would be, there'd be 10 people there. Right. And everybody would keep their distance anyways. And I'm sure more.
Yeah, which is something that occurred to me too when we were, talking about, I wanted to have some people weigh in that were like on different kind of sides of the spectrum, as well as kind of in different genres and in different like niches. Like, you're the ambient noise kind of community here really does lend to like smaller, intimate shows anyway. So I wondered if that was like a sense of security that you might have, or perhaps not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, yeah,
it definitely is. But I mean, I also travel a lot with my music because, I don't understand technology these kids are doing nowadays with the Bandcamp and the SoundCloud and stuff. I just rather go and show people my music in person and just go from there. I have a Bandcamp, but I don't have the wherewithal to do all the online promoting that's necessary and stuff. And so I just rather show up to somebody's little podunk town, play, and meet a bunch of people, hang out, and get to know these people. And if they like my music, awesome. If not, then hey, whatever. I'm gonna go take this amazing trip. If you want to come with me, you're more than welcome to. That's the way I kind of see it. And which is much different approach I used to have when I was younger. I was obsessed with promoting and getting my name out. And I've discovered that doing the opposite has actually worked better.
Right.
So.
Do you think that like right now traveling for you would be out of the question? I mean, we're also kind of having to work within these guidelines of what is recommended by the CDC, or if we don't want to listen to them, or if we're only listening to our own state recommendations. I'll ask this question to both of you. Sean, do you think that traveling was out of the question for you right now?
For music, yeah. I've been traveling on my own just to go camping and backpacking and mountain biking. The thing about when I travel for that reason, I avoid people. I'm not a horribly social person anymore. So I'll go out and I'll drive 8 hours into the Appalachian Mountains. And I'll only stop to get gas. I'll pack a cooler, and I get out and get gas. I wear rubber gloves, and and I sanitize my hands when I get back in my van, and I go out and I'm alone the whole time. So it's just me. So that aspect of traveling, I think that's safe because I don't really come into human contact at all. Now, going to another city to play a show, to interact with people, and stay at a promoter's house, or have them get you to a hotel, or whatever it is. It seems like that wouldn't be wise because different areas it's affected differently. And here I am coming from an area that's had a lot of cases of COVID, and I don't think that would be safe for me to do right now. I think that's primarily why I think nobody's touring right now, is because it's not really necessarily safe. I wouldn't do it. No. That's why. Well, I'm not doing it, but yeah. So.
Right. Mikey, and same for you. At what point would touring or going to another city to play a show be, again, that whole reward is greater than the risk for you?
Man, so I'm trying to put it into like a what if situation.
Sure.
Come on down and all your dreams come true. I'm like, could I? Would I? I don't know.
Right.
But I think one of the things that the band has sort of agreed on, and I think it's just kind of like who we are individually too, is if we see a situation or a person or like corona senses go off or something, we back up, like we disengage, we sanitize, we give it space. So with that being said, I mean, I don't really think I would possibly get on a plane or go to another state that seems to be reported as like crazy outbreaks, only 6 ICU beds in the whole state of Arizona type of thing, So it's like, I don't know if traveling and stuff like that would probably be one of our boundaries right now. And I'm kind of enjoying like the work that we're doing, just kind of coming together internally as a band right now. So it's something that we were missing going into all this. We were so busy putting everything out and out and out and out. It's kind of like, but how do we sit down and like, how do we develop like artistically what we're going through? So I'm kind of more in that vein than like, oh, sweet, a show over in Baltimore, got to go do it, type of a thing. But yeah, I wouldn't get on a plane for anything right now. It just seems like the worst idea to me. But.
So another question that I've been asking myself as, we do start to look at reopening some of these clubs, and even as far as DJing, and if I feel comfortable going back, is, every day is different with the numbers. I think that Sean mentioned that, and it is a new beast almost weekly. So I guess my question for both of you is, at what point would you reassess what you would need to do with the band, or if you would not feel comfortable playing out? Because unfortunately, our numbers in Ohio are getting higher, and our numbers in Cuyahoga County specifically are getting higher. And we've already seen the mask regulations coming back, which I personally feel like more comfortable with if I know that I'm going to go out and people like have to wear masks, right? But I guess at what point would you like change your mind and cancel and you know, say I apologize, but this is where we're at right now? Because I think a lot of people are asking themselves that as they're lining up shows, to kind of, you know, see how they're feeling as far as, you know, if it's safe or not. So I mean, Sean, what kind of red flags would you be looking for to say like, no, I think I'm gonna have to cancel?
Wow, I don't even know. The number's definitely going up. It's a scary situation, and you know, just the venue wasn't practicing being safe. They weren't requiring their employees to wear masks. If they, you know, had no hot running water, which is like most venues, I would be a bit concerned. I'm picky about venues to begin with, anyways. My partner uses a wheelchair, so it really limits what shows we get to go see here locally. Thankfully, the Grog Shop is a good place for us to go. We have that, but and they have hot water. But honestly, like it would just, I have to kind of feel it out. I mean, you know, it's kind of like the old saying, "What is pornography?" I don't know, but you'll know when you see it. I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. You know, depending on the venue, I guess, and depending on, you know, there's a lot of things that go into that decision, I suppose.
Yeah, so I think that all those things that you mentioned though are really good, you know, stands to have and things to look for when like making those decisions. Mikey, you know, how would you respond to that?
I mean, similar in a lot of ways, you know, like if a venue wasn't participating in respecting the pandemic for what it is, you know, at the very base of it, like I don't really care if the numbers are one in every million people, or if it's 1 out of every 50 people that are contracting it. You know, I think just the fact that, at least to the way that it's been sort of embedded in all of our minds and how we've seen it manifest in front of us, you know, if a venue, a place, people, or things aren't taking into account like the very basic of security measures and safety measures, I don't think I've ever had to like cancel a gig before, but I think that would definitely be means to do one.
I think it's hard for a lot of musicians right now too, because like you're saying, most of us have like never canceled a gig, you know, even if we're like sick, we'll still go and like fight it out, you know, but right now it's like not advisable to do that. You know, I would definitely advise people not to do that. And so it's kind of this whole new psyche, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think venues and even promoters and whatnot should right now kind of, I would hope they'd be more understanding if they were booking bands and the band said, well, the numbers in your area are getting high, we're going to have to pull out, that they would be understanding and not, you know, be like, no, you're never playing here again. I hope that they're understanding of that. You know, because like I said earlier, things change from day to day. I'm hoping that kind of, you know, softens things and whatnot. Because I was recently in a band where my bandmates got in some legal trouble and they had to cancel a show. So I was like, well, I'll go play by myself because I can do that. And the music was so similar that I was able to. And I actually left the band after that because I was like, you guys can't be canceling shows like the day before for stupid reasons. Because anyhow, so I digress.
Yeah, Mikey?
Well, I know someone who was supposed to have a show. I won't say their name or place or anything like that, but they were supposed to have a show at Put in Bay this past weekend. Wow. And they were actually on their way there. And the gig was canceled between like the owner and the artist on the way to the gig. Obviously, Put-in-Bay was definitely kind of a hot spot, as they say. So I know people are out there really like having to face some of those tough decisions, and so yeah, it's definitely interesting times with just everything going on when it comes to all those little side like thoughts that you have about it all, the way that you would normally operate. And but yeah, I agree with Dan. I think venues, for the most part, venues have been the one canceling most of the gigs. So
Put-in-Bay is such its own beast too, because a lot of that, I feel like a lot of the blowback that I saw happen because of Put-in-Bay was probably, ultimately a lot of the businesses' responsibility, where they didn't limit the number of people that were coming into their establishments. And so, ultimately we could blame those businesses, right? So just being able to hear what both of you as performers would expect from a venue to play at, like as far as, trying to enforce some of these guidelines, I think is helpful to hear for venues who are trying to make some good decisions right now. So thank you for providing those opinions as well on the show tonight. I really appreciate that. I want to give you guys both just a little time to let people know where they can go online to hear your music, or like where they could follow you at if they want more information about any shows that you may have coming up eventually in 2020 or 2021. And Sean, if you want to start, I'll have you begin.
Well, you can get my music at Bandcamp. It's SCAN-HOLT .bandcamp.com. Also, I'm on like all major streaming services. Just type in SCAN-HOLT, I come up. As far as shows go, I have nothing booked right now. I'm just going to kind of enjoy the summer and ride it out and see what happens in the fall. Only thing I have planned to do is get my new mountain bike in 2 weeks and go ride in northern Michigan. So, but I am available you can hear my music online and all streaming services. That's really about it. So
awesome, thank you. And Mikey?
Yeah, Apostle Jones. We actually put our Live from Cleveland album out there, so it's on all the major streaming platforms. It's kind of our first step into that world. So again, so thankful for that opportunity to you all. So that's out there. We're pretty active on the Instagram and everything. Apostle Jones. Add a music or Cleveland afterwards, because you'll get a bunch of preachers from like England and Africa. It's a fun search. But we're actually playing a show at Coda August 16th, and we're going to be doing in the parking lot next to Dante's there. It's going to be Apostle Jones, Ray Flanagan, and Jewel Green. Outdoor show, and we have a couple other outdoor gigs on the dock here. But we're really excited. We're getting into the studio at the end of the month to do our first official EP, and we're going to have a live stream event to kick that off. So yeah, we'd love to have people join us. We think music's a healing thing, and it also connects us, and it fills in some of that gray area that all these numbers and this stuff that we kind of are stuck in the middle of fear and wanting to do more or less or whatever. So we think music's important, and this conversation's definitely, I've learned a lot of things from Dan tonight, so I'm grateful.
Dan.
I want to say thank you to both Sean and Mikey for joining us, because obviously this is a difficult conversation, and I don't think that there is a right opinion right now,
right,
as far as whether we are ready or not to begin doing live shows. But it was amazing to hear both of your opinions, and it could be a big argument. So thanks for not turning this into that, and giving us some realness. I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Can I add one thing, Rachel?
Mm-hmm.
So I went and saw a show at the Music Box last week or something, and they did it really well. Everyone was spaced out and everything, sitting at tables. But the thing that amazed me about that one was looking around at who was there. It wasn't just young people. It wasn't just friends of the band. Like, it was a mix. Like definitely 6 feet away from me was a group of senior individuals, probably in their 70s or 80s, and they were out there to enjoy the music that night. So I feel like music is out there and it's accessible for people. So I just want to say, like, it's just not just, sometimes it feels like, oh, the young people are doing things or everyone's hiding from it type of a thing. Like, people are itching to get out there and do something. So I think it's, so I think that extra importance and for this conversation tonight.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out for this evening. And thank you to Isaac as well for hosting us on Skype and making this available online to everybody. This will be broadcast. A edited version of our interview will be live on WRUW-FM tomorrow from 10 to 11 p.m. During our normal Live from Cleveland slot. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will talk to you later. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right. Let me know when we're good, Isaac. Okay, cool. Thank you both so much for joining me. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties on my part. I log in so early to try to fix them, and I can never seem to fix them, so...
This is great. Thank you.
But I appreciate both of you very, very much for